Daf Yud Beis Amud Aleph. We'll begin Daf Yud Aleph Amud Beis, 6 lines from the bottom. We learned previously the Brisa said that as far as the Beis Knesses is concerned, both L'gabe the mitzvah of mezuzah, there's a chiyuv of mezuzah, and it's also capable of being matama bin negoim. If there's a nega, tzaras, leprosy in a house, it has tumas negoim, and the same applies for a shul of Beis Knesses. Correct. The Gemara ubeis haKnesses mi matam bin negoim. Is the Beis Knesses really matam bin negoim? Is that so? Tanya, we learned in a braysa. Yochel you bati knesses bati midrashes matam bin negoim. You might think that the matam bin negoim tam loimer uvo asher loy habayis. It says by negoim. It says the person uvo asher loy habayis v'higid l'kayin. So it has to belong to him. It has to be a house that belongs to him. What his ownership is specifically his. So that it excludes Beis Knesses, Beis Medrash, that they don't belong to anyone in particular. Where it says like kasha, how do we resolve the apparent steer on the brises? Like kasha, how Rabbi Meir Arabanan. This is really totally on Rabbi Meir and Arabanan. Machlokes between them if the house has to be specifically attributed to any particular owner. The Sanya, like we learned in the Brisa, basic Knesses, Sheyesh Ba Beis Dira, L'Chazan Knesses, Chayav B'Mezuzah. A Beis Knesses that has an apartment for the Chazan for the Shabbos, the Beis Knesses is Chayav Mezuzah. There is a residential area that is attributed to a person in particular. Ushein Ba Beis Dira, but if it doesn't have an apartment, Rameir Machayev. Rameir is Machayev, says you're Chayev in any event you're Chayev. It doesn't matter, you're still Chayev Chacham Paiter. But the Chacham Bar Paiter, they said it's Pater. It's Pater because it has to be attributed to a person in particular. So as the Ritva explains, therefore, both by Negoim and both by Mezuzah, there is the possessive. It says Abo Asher Loi Habayis. It has to belong to someone in particular. And Beisecha by mezuzah v'shorach, it has to be your house. So it doesn't, it's not attributed. And in particular, the Chachamim say that you are therefore pater, and there's no din of negoim. But Rameir says no, that's not a requirement. So we can resolve the brises Rameir ha-Chachamim. But the Ritva says that even though the Chacham say it has to belong to someone in particular, that does not exclude partners, because partners, it's identifiable to each of the partners. The Gemara says another solution is Hava Rabbana. I'll tell you that really both prices can be going according to the Rabbanan. V'loi kasha, it's not a kasha had isba beis dira, had lesba beis dira. Simply speaking, one Bryce is talking where there's an apartment for the Chazan, and this other is talking where there is no apartment, and it can be both according to the Rabbanan. I'll tell you another teretz, Havaha, the last Beis Dira. Both cases, you're talking where there's no Beis Dira, Vaha, the Karachim, Vaha, the Kfarim. There's a difference if it's in a big city or in a village. If it's in a big city, it's not considered to be attributable to anybody in particular, because people come and go. It's a metropolis. There's people in the city, people from outside the city. But in a village, there are not people coming and going. So the owners are just the small community of the villagers that are considered to be the owners of the shul, and therefore they're considered to be like partners of the shul. So then there would be a chiyuv mezuzah. Well, according to this, you're telling me that the big city shuls are not matam bin negoim? Is that really true? Tanya, we learned in a Bryce Achuz Haschem, the Torah says that there'll be a nega in base as Achuz Haschem in your inheritance, meaning in your land, in a house in your land. Achuz Haschem matam bin negoim. If it's your land and there's a house on your land, it's matam bin negoim. But ve'en Yerushalayim matam bin negoim. But Yerushalayim is not. There's no tumas negoim. It's not considered your land, because Yerushalayim, according to this opinion, Yerushalayim was not divided amongst the Shvatim, so it's not considered to be in anyone in particular. There is no division of Yerushalayim according to this Tana. Amar Rav Yehuda said, no, he argues on Yerushalayim. He says, Ani lo shamati al Makam Mikdash Bolvad. This, that there's no Tumas Negoim, that's only the Beis HaMikdash, the Makam Mikdash. But in Yerushalayim, there is Tumas Negoim. How about the Knesses, about the Midrashas, Matam and Negoim? So it can be Medaik from here that Rav holds that the Bate Knesses in Yerushalayim are Matam and Negoim. Va'avagav the Krachim Ninu na Yerushalayim is a metropolis, is a big city. So doesn't that show you that only the Beis HaMikdash that was not so, but the Beis HaMikdash is not attributable to any, because the Beis HaMikdash, the money that collected was the Malkam HaMikdash, Dovid HaMelech collected from all the Shvatim to purchase from a Rav Nevusi. But in Yerushalayim, that the Batei Knesses is by the Mirish are Matama Negoim, even though it's the Krakim, even though the Yerushalayim was a Krach. Mar says no. Ema, rather what it means, Rav Yehuda is saying, Amar Rav Yehuda Anilu Shemate Ela Malkam Mekudesh Bilvad, not the Malkam Mikdash, not only the Beis HaMikdash, the Malkam Mekudesh, and the Beis Knesses is a Mikdash Mat, so that's also considered a Malkam Mekudesh, and it's also as a Patur from it as well, and there's no Tumas Negoim, because it is a Krach, it's a Shul in a Krach. So now, what's the basic machlokes the Gemara is going to discuss between the Tanakama and Rav Yehuda? What's the basic machlokes on Yerushalayim? So my kamiflagi Tanakama Savar, Tanakama hold Yerushalayim lo nischalkel l'shvatim, that Yerushalayim was not divided amongst the shvatim. So therefore, he says, since Yerushalayim was not divided among the Shvatim, no house, any house in Yerushalayim, and Yerushalayim Matam Negoim, because it did not have any particular owner. Rav Yehuda Savar, Yerushalayim is Chalak l'Shvatim, but Yerushalayim, Rav Yehuda holds, no, it was divided amongst the Shvatim, just like the rest of the land was divided amongst the Shvatim. It also was, so therefore, the houses are considered belong to a particular owner, and there would be Tumas Negoim. It's only the Beis Knesses that is excluded, but not the houses. And this is a machlokes of the following Tanoim as well, as if there was a division of Shvatim by Yerushalayim. The Sanya we learned in the Brisa, Maya Bechalka Shel Yehuda, which part of the Beis HaMikdash was in the Chelik of Yehuda. The territory of Yehuda and Binyamin, they butted each other. So the eastern part, east of the Beis HaMikdash, was the Chelik, the territory of Yehuda. On the west part was Binyamin. So they came together. So the parts of the Beis HaMikdash were in Binyamin, and part was in the Shevet, the Chelik of Yehuda. So how is it divided? Harabayis, the Harabayis, Valishkais, and the different chambers that were on in the east part of the Azoram, the different offices, the Harabayis, Azoras, and the courtyards, the Azoras, the Ezra's Noshim, the Ezra's Yisrael, the Ezra's Kahanim. So all of the Azoras, it's from the Harabayas, it was to the east of the Beis HaMikdash of the Heichal, east coming to the west, all that was in the east, the Harabayas, and the Lishkais, the Azoras, all that was in Yehuda. What was in the portion of Binyamin? Ulam, the Heichal, the Beis Kodesh Kadoshim, and the Beis Kodesh Kadoshim. All that was in the Chelik of Binyamin. And there was a strip of land that came from the portion of Yehuda, and it extended into the territory of Binyamin. And that's where the Mizbeach was built. So, if we look at it somewhat in terms as follows, so really the dividing line, we should say, the dividing line between Yehuda and Binyamin was, this is to the east, this is Yehuda, so this is the Azores, the different Azores, Lishkoyas. Here was the Mizbeach. So typically what would have been, it would be a straight line dividing the boundaries. This is Yehuda, and the land here starts, this is the land of Binyamin, and then you have the Ulam and the Heichal Kodesh Kodashim. But it didn't go as a straight line like that. The land of Binyamin was all here. Now, it didn't come and straight down. after there was a tafach of the Yisoid over here, then it jutted in. This area here was all Yehuda. This strip of land over here was also Yehuda. And Binyamin's started again after a tafach from the southwest corner, and all that was Binyamin. So this area land over here was Binyamin. The strip over here was Yehuda. Now the Mizbeach actually wasn't built here. If there was a Yesoid, it would be here. It would have been in Yehuda's, but since the Mizbeach was in Binyamin, it was missing the foundation over here and on this side as well, because this strip of land was Yehuda. Binyamin's was here, and of course Binyamin's extended over there. So that was a strip of land that was Yehuda, so to speak, encroached into the territory of Binyamin. And the Binyamin was agitated over that, and it was bothered by it, that it was not in his territory, that was not in his chelik. He agonized it all the day that this was missing from his territory, where the Mokom, that part of where the Yesod of the Mikdash of the Mizbeach should have been. He was as agonizing over that. And because he wanted it so much and it was so important to him, he became the Ushpizin, he became the host for the Gevura, meaning that the Orna Kodesh was in his territory, that he was Zaycha, that the Ulam, the Heichal, the Kodesh Kadoshim, the Orna Kodesh, this was all in the Chelek of Binyamin. Shenemra Bank Seif al Shachin, that the Shechina rested between his shoulders, meaning it rested in the Oran, the Hashvaz Shechina was in the Chelek of Binyamin. Between his shoulders, that's where it rested. So we see that this Tana holds that there was a division on the Shvatim, that this area, that it was divided among the Shvatim, that part was Yehuda and part was Binyamin. Now, so we see one Tana holds that it was Nischalka l'Shvatim. V'hai Tana Savar, and the following Tana holds Yerushalayim lo Nischalka l'Shvatim, that it was not divided. The Sanuel and the Raisa in Maskirim Batim Yerushalayim. We don't rent out houses in Yerushalayim. So the Ritva, it's Medui from Rashi, that it means for the Oiler Regolim. But it's Diuk in Rashi, but it's Mefurish in the Ritva, that means at the time of Elias Regolim, that we are not allowed to charge for renting out the houses. People come and they're entitled to their mitzvah to come to Yerushalayim, meaning, and since it was Loinus Chalkal Shvatim, the people that own the houses, it's not really entirely their ownership. It's not completely their ownership, because the Yerushalayim was not divided to the Shvatim. Everybody has a chelik in Yerushalayim. Therefore, you're not allowed to charge rent for the people, the Orle Golim, that come to Yerushalayim and you rent out their houses. Lefi Yishen Yerushalayim, because it doesn't belong to them exclusively. Even the beds, renting out the beds, since it's on the land area, and also it's not Nischalka l'Shvatim, the land is not Nischalka, it doesn't belong exclusively to them. Lefichach, therefore, since the one who's hosting can't charge rent, the Chachamim were Masakin or his Kachim Bale Shpischa Noitel Noisim Israel, that the people who own the houses, they can forcefully take the Oris of Kachim. The Kachim Kalim have the skins, have the hides. That belongs to the owners. The owner, Maker Din, could give it to whoever they want, or keep it. Here, the hosts, since they're not allowed to charge rent, they're allowed to forcefully extract those hides. See from here that it's a derech eretz people are living in the house or using the house during the regal, it's a derech eretz to leave that for the host to leave the jug that a person used that he drinks from during that time, and the hides, the skins, that to leave that to the host. So therefore, as the Ritva explains, since that's a derech eretz, the Chachamim said, therefore, mi'ikra din, the host can take it forcibly to take that. He can be compensated for the fact that he can't charge rent. He can forcibly take this, since this is the derech eretz. So, therefore, we see that we had a stira of whether there's a tumas negoim in the shuls or not, and we answered it in several ways. So we answered, one of the ways we answered was the chiluk between the kforim and the krachim. And we wanted to say one way to answer the parent steer in the brises whether the shuls are matam in the goyim or not is that to say by kforim, by the villages, it's matam in the goyim, because the owners are identifiable, but not in the krachim, not in the big cities. Frag the gemara uda kforim mi matam in the goyim. Is that true that in the kforim in the villages is matam in the goyim? Ayva Tanya, we learn in the brise alachuza. It says when you come into the achuza to the eretz achuzalchem, your inheritance, your land, there'll be a tuma in the houses. So it says achuza ad sheyechvzu oisa. It's only the negoim they would apply. The tsaras would take into effect only when you capture the land. So, but even if they captured, but they didn't divide it amongst the shvatim, or even if they divided it amongst the shvatim, but not into the separate families, or even if it was divided into the families, but people, the individuals did not recognize where their portion was, their precise portion was minayin. How do you know that even in such a case there would be no tumas negoim? How do you know that it has to be that the ownership is identified specifically with a specific person? Talmud leimer uvo asher loy habayis. It has to be his. Mishum yuchad loy. So in all these cases, even if it was divided among the shvatim or the batei avos, etc., as long as it's not identifiable to the particular owner, there's no tsaras. So we see from here that if you can't identify it, so that would make there should be no chiluk, whether it's krachim or kfarim. If you can't identify your house in particular, there's no tumas nagoyim. So therefore, even the kfarim, according to this opinion, will not have tumas negoim. Must be, like we learned previously, that to resolve the steer in the brises, we have to say either hara mer harabanan or hava harabanan, and there's a chilik if there is a base dir lachazan knesses or no base dir lachazan knesses. So now coming back to what we learned in the Mishnah says, "Maskinu like kohen achra." We prepare a substitute kohen for the kohen gadol. So in case the kohen gadol becomes disqualified, we have a backup. We have a substitute. So the Gemara says, "Pshita." So it's pasha of iraboy psul kohen tamid shel shachar. If the kohen gadol, the existing kohen gadol, became disqualified before the tamid shel shachar, before they were marked with the morning tamid, then we know what to do. The replacement kohen gadol, the substitute, we can be mechanech him, we can inaugurate him with the avodah of the tamid shel shachar. In order for the kohen gadol to do the avodah, he has to have chinuch, he has to be inaugurated, either with shemen mishcha, if there was shemen mishcha, after a certain point in time Yoshio Amel hid it, or he has chinuch with doing the avodah, with wearing the clothes of the kohen gadol and doing an avodah. So now, as the Ritva explains, even though we designated the substitute, but that designation doesn't give him chinuch. So here, if there was a psul in the existing kohen gadol before the tamid shel shachar, now the substitute, he wears the shmoyda big day kuna gedayla, and he does the avodah of the tamid shel shachar, and now he has a chinuch. He's been installed as a kohen gadol. But however, but if he became apostle after that, so now he has to do the avodah for Yom Kippur. He has to do the avodah for Yom Kippur. How can we be machanech him? With what do we inaugurate him to enable him, to qualify him to do the avodah for Yom Kippur? He wears the avnet of the Kohen Gadol, which according to this Tana is different than the regular avnet, and therefore by wearing this avnet, this belt, which was only Kohen Gadol can wear it, so therefore he can do, when he does the avodah of the Yom Kippur with this avnet, which is exclusively the avnet of Kohen Gadol, that inaugurates him for the avodah. And the more we'll discuss, as we'll see in the next year, if that is so. There's a machlokes if the belt of the avnet of the Kohen Gadol was unique, if it was different than the avnet of a Kohen Hedjed.